So now we're gonna be looking at kings and generals, what happened to Alexander's, tomb. And I've heard that it was around even in the Roman era, that, there were even stories like frickin' Caligula wearing the breastplate of Alexander, or like Augustus going to meet it. Obviously, Caesar probably did in his stay in Egypt, so it's kind of the last I hear about it in terms of how it's discussed, that it survived even to the early Roman Empire, but I don't know about any of the specifics from there on. So I guess we'll find out, won't we?
This video was sponsored by The Great Courses Plus. Go to thegreatcoursesplus.com today to start your free trial. In 30 BC, great change was coming to the city of Alexandria. The death of Cleopatra signalled the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, and the era of Roman Alexandria began. Just as it had first under Perdiccas and then under the Ptolemies, as Rome became the new owners of Alexander's body, the symbolic power of the conqueror's corpse changed once again. So how great was this transformation? And why did this body, one so central to Alexandrian life, later suddenly vanish without a trace? This is the story behind Alexander's body and his tomb. Alexander had always fascinated the Romans. Questions of who would have emerged victorious if Alexander had faced them in battle had dominated much scholarly thinking for centuries.
Yeah, it's interesting just the respect the Romans have. Like Julius Caesar, the story that he wept upon seeing a statue of Alexander because he felt he hadn't accomplished as much, to even like Pompey wanting to emulate him. There's so much about Alexander that even to the Romans were still like, man, this guy's cool, So I find that very interesting.
To some, he was a drunk and decadent megalomaniac. Yet to those Romans who desired power, he was an immortalized conqueror who epitomized world power, a man to admire and emulate. First Julius Caesar and then Augustus would visit Alexander's tomb to pay their respects. Augustus, according to one account, breaking off Alexander's nose by accident. Both neglected the nearby Ptolemaic tombs. In their eyes, only Alexander was worthy of admiration. When asked whether he would like to see the bodies of the Ptolemies, Augustus replied, "I came to see a king, not a bunch of corpses." The Romans showed contempt for the Ptolemaic link with Alexander.
Yeah, they were like, ill. All this incest is disgusting. I'm joking. So yeah. Shame on the House of Ptolemy. Shame for their barbarity, I'm just joking around.
Some suggest that they even had the Ptolemaic tombs removed, thus severing the connection between the Ptolemies and Alexander. Other Roman emperors also visited Soma, among them Caligula, Vespasian, Titus, and Hadrian. For them all, the body symbolized the zenith of power. Many would thus associate themselves with Alexander, some more obsessively than others. Caligula, for instance, looted Alexander's body of his breastplate. Yet no emperor was more fixated with Alexander than the crazed Caracalla, who believed he was Alexander reincarnated. So crazed was his belief that he called himself the Great Alexander and even equipped Macedonian levies as Alexander's infantrymen, arming them with deadly sarissæ and naming them Alexander's phalanx. It is not surprising that Caracalla was murdered soon after. As the crisis of the 3rd century raged, Alexandria would endure numerous riots.
Give us Emperor Aurelian. I always love this image, even though it's probably not accurate at all in terms of what he's wearing. That's the famous helmet of Aurelian that he never wore. This is like an invention from Total War. But it still just looks cool. Like, I kind of wish it was real that he did wear something like that, because that's just gives off aura, and a uniqueness.
Its rebellions and sackings from various monarchs, among them the famed Palmyrene Queen Zenobia, as well as the emperors Aurelian and Diocletian. Yet the tomb survived. Mention of Alexander's tomb is sparse in this period. However, in 390 AD, another reference to Alexander's tomb emerges, this time by the pagan writer Libanius, who mentions Alexander's body being on display in Alexandria. Little did he know that his would be the last known written account mentioning Alexander's body in Alexandria. Within 10 years, all knowledge of the whereabouts of Alexander had disappeared. Around 400 AD, the Christian priest John Chrysostom went so far as to taunt the disappearance of this pagan body. Where, tell me, is Alexander's tomb? Alexander's body had vanished without a trace. So what likely happened? The answer, most likely, lies in the religious context of the late 4th century Alexandria. At the start of the 4th century, a new powerful force came to the city.
Christianity.
One very different to those that had come before, the followers of Christ.
Yeah, and then, I think there was kind of the desire to de-paganize, right? De-paganization. I don't think that's even a word, but point is, removing the pagan images, statues, gods, and I think Alexander's body would definitely be a symbol of the Hellenistic, or rather pagan world, and getting rid of it as a symbol definitely is probable. I could see someone just being like, screw this, and then just, I don't know, gets rid of the body, like, I don't know. It seems plausible to me that could have happened,
Jews and Christians had long lived in Alexandria as minor sects of the mainly pagan population. Yet by 330 AD, following the split of the Roman Empire in two, the Christian sect began to grow. Christian zealots soon appeared throughout the Eastern Roman Empire, on many occasions violently tearing down pagan buildings. Alexandria would not be spared this fervent zeal. In 391, the Eastern Roman Emperor Theodosius officially banned paganism throughout the empire. All symbols of paganism had to be eradicated. The Christians in Alexandria happily obliged, quickly destroying the pagan places of worship, most notably the Serapeum, the temple to Serapis. Many believe Alexander's tomb suffered a similar fate. To the early Christians, Alexander's tomb was more than just a monument. The pagans worshipped Alexander as a god, and his tomb had been a place of pagan worship for centuries. If left untouched, it could easily become a focal point for pagan resistance. It is likely that Alexander's tomb suffered a similar fate to the Serapeum in 391. As for the body itself, it was likely either buried underneath or smuggled away before the destruction could take place. No evidence has yet been found. Yet there is another possibility. The Christians did not always tear down pagan sites. Sometimes they simply converted these places into Christian churches. One theory put forward by Andrew Chugg suggests Alexander's tomb may have been converted into the Church of St. Mark, the founder of Christianity in Alexandria. This church is first mentioned in the 390s, at the same time we last hear of Alexander's body, and was also located in the centre of Alexandria. In some accounts, St. Mark's body was also mummified. Yet the story then gets even more interesting. In 828, Venetian traders smuggled a body, alleged to be Mark, out of the church. They then sailed back to Venice, whose patron saint was St. Mark. the body was placed in the Basilica of St. Mark, where it remains to this day. Could this be the final resting place of Alexander? Although this theory has flaws, it is fascinating to consider that Alexander's body may not be lost in Alexandria, but highly visible in the center of Venice. Attempts to discover the whereabouts of Alexander's tomb have occurred since Muslim occupation of Alexandria from 640 onwards. To this day, sarcophagi are being uncovered, yet none so far have been proven to be that of Alexander. Despite this, there have been some interesting finds, one of which stands out above the rest. In 1798, the French Emperor Napoleon arrived in Alexandria at the start of his Egyptian campaign, and his men made a startling discovery. In a mosque courtyard, they discovered an ornate Egyptian sarcophagus claimed to be the empty sarcophagus of Alexander the Great. This sarcophagus soon fell into the hands of the British following their victory at Alexandria in 1801. Equally convinced it was the sarcophagus of Alexander, they took it to London to be displayed at the British Museum. Yet disappointment soon followed, as hieroglyphs then revealed it belonged to Nectanebo II. This is not to say that the sarcophagus had never housed Alexander's body, however. As mentioned at the beginning of our first video, for a time it is likely Ptolemy I had placed Alexander's body in the empty sarcophagus of Nectanebo II, as it was in this act that fabulous Egyptian tales of Alexander being the son of Nectanebo likely took root. It was in this coffin, for instance, that Ptolemy likely transported Alexander's body to Alexandria from Memphis before it was later replaced. Could this tomb, now on display in the British Museum, have once housed the mummified body of Alexander? The story of Alexander's body is one that fascinates archaeologists and historians to this day, and the hunt continues for the eternal conqueror's remains. Recently, another sarcophagus dating to Ptolemaic times was discovered in Alexandria. Perhaps this tomb will be the one. Or perhaps Alexander's body is still out there, silently waiting to be discovered. When we create our videos, we often use the series of lectures called Cities of the
Alright, I think he's done. And yeah, that's just interesting. It's either the tomb is possibly with the British, the body is possibly in Venice, or buried. So many possibilities, right? Probably we'll never find out, but I think that's just interesting that something so important could have just faded out from the annals of history, you know? But yeah, it's like one of those things like where the Ark of the Covenant is, just like where's Alexander's tomb? You may never fully know, but I think it is just a really cool thing. And overall, yeah, just another great video. I really like this. It kind of reminds me of those like mystery documentaries, like where's this, where's that. I don't know. I really like these two videos, especially this one. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow when we start something new. Bye everyone.